Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. My name's Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and I'm excited to be back for another week of challenges. If you are tuning in live here on Behance today, let me know who you are and where you're tuning in from. In the chat, we've got Monir and Cornell and Agnixa. If I mispronounce anyone's name, I do apologize. We've got Tia and Sam and Julia and Evan and Joseph. Big thank you to Alexis and Peter, who just wrapped up the previous stream. Great stuff. We've got Nicole from Portland, Oregon. We've got another Howard. I love seeing other Howards in the chat. Welcome, everyone. Great to see all of you. Hope you all had a great weekend. Over the weekend, I did get a new field monitor for my camera, so I can finally see all of you. I'm staring at all of you right now. Many of you need to put pants on. No, I'm just kidding. I can't see any of you. Maybe I can. I don't know. We've got Michigan and Netherlands, Spain and Nigeria, New Zealand. I want to go to New Zealand one day. When all this stuff, this travel business is over, we can fly again. New Zealand's on my list. I think I'm going to go there. All right. What do we have going on? We also got Benjamin in the chat. Don't forget me. I did not forget you, my friend. There you are. All right. Let's hop over to my screen. Here we go. Let me hop over to Safari just for a second to explain how all of this stuff works. Behance.net/challenge/XD. This is where you're going to find all the information about the Daily Creative Challenge. We are on week number 2, so if you missed last week, you can always go back, rewatch those videos, grab the starter file, and get going. Or if you just want to start from scratch, you can always grab the starter file for today, and you'll get caught up. That's English, caught up. You'll get caught up. And if you aren't participating in this round, you can always start again fresh next week. We've got a new host, new challenges coming up very soon. So if you haven't hit the big blue register button at the top, definitely press that button so you're notified when new challenges are released. And every single day, you are going to receive one of those challenges, at least Monday to Friday, minus the first Monday. Confusing? A little bit. But in total, you're going to get 9 challenges throughout the 2 weeks. Sometimes, maybe in the future, we're going to be doing 1-week challenges, so those are kind of fun, right? You can also join us in our community chat. I'm going to hop over to Discord right now. We've got over 45,000 designers in Discord. That's a lot of people. Amazing people, too. You can get all the information about each day's challenge. You can ask questions, share tips and tricks, get career advice, and you can also share the work that you're doing for the challenges. So a lot of people are in here sharing their work. And we've got some great mentors like Alexis, who is just streaming, Joss and Matt and Melody and Peter and Tim. Great people giving amazing feedback to all of you. So hop in there, share your work on Discord. You can also share it on Behance using the keyword XD Daily Challenge. That way you can go over to behance.net/challenges/galleries, or I think it's the other way around. behance.net/galleries/challenges. That's the one. And you can sort by XD, Photoshop, and Illustrator, which are what we're doing for the challenges, at least over the next 2 weeks. And we also have Premiere challenges that we've been testing, and those might come to Behance at some point in the future. But yeah, get your work featured. It's good stuff. All right, so let's head back over here just for a second. And we started last week with our sign-in experience using components. Then we expanded on that using component states, and we built out the navigation bar. Then we moved on to a social feed. And then on Friday, search and discovery using plugins, which was really fun. And then today we're tackling our profile settings. We're going to be using overlays to get that done. So here we go. Let's hop over to Adobe XD, and if anyone has questions throughout this stream, throw them in the chat. I am watching. We've got, who else do we have in here? There's Sam, there's Akin, Omer, Munir, Annie from Boston. Great to see all of you. All right, so here we go. Let's catch up. We've got our sign-in screen over to the left. We've got our navigation bar. We've got our social feed. We've got our stories at the top, which we use plugins. We also have a search experience. And today, we're going to be building out that settings menu using overlays. So here's what we're going to do. We have been working with an iPhone 11, I believe. iPhone 11, possibly, 11 Max, one of these big artboards for the iPhones. So we're going to simply create another one. You can duplicate the one that you're currently working with, or you can start from scratch. I'm going to start from scratch because I'm not really going to be using any of the elements from the previous artboard. So we've got this new artboard here. I'm going to just name this menu, just like that. And maybe to kind of pull in some of the color that we've been using throughout this application, we're going to grab the pink. So we're going to hop over to our assets panel, which is this area right down here. Press that icon. And we did in the first day, I believe, we saved the pink that we're going to be using throughout this application. So I can simply click on it with the artboard selected, and it's going to automatically apply it as the background. Now that's a lot of pink, but we're going to definitely make some very large links that will kind of offset that a little bit. So there's a few things we might want, right? First, at the top, we might want a profile picture. So I'm going to grab an ellipse, draw one out. I'm going to hold down my shift key to constrain this to a perfect circle. I'm going to make sure to center it. And you can also use your distribution options right here at the top. So you can press this one right here, which is going to align it to the center, just like that. I can turn off the border if I want to, and I've got an area for a profile picture. We're going to fill that in shortly. Now, for the text, underneath, we might want a name of this person. So I'm going to grab my text tool, and I'm going to type out, let's just say for a placeholder, awesome designer, right? That's maybe the username of this person. Now there's a few things I might want to do, because obviously this is not looking great. First thing, I want to center it. So if I do need to make changes, it nicely aligns from the center, right? Next, I'm going to change the typeface. We're going to move away from Sophia Pro for this one, and we're going to be using Dunbar, which is what we were using for our headers on some previous screens. Next, we're going to change the color to white. It looks a little bit better against that pink. We might want to bump up the weight to bold and then really make this a little bit larger, just so we can see that username quite nicely, right? And I can position this, I don't know, somewhere right about there. That looks pretty good. Now, down below, we may also want to include the username. So this might be the display name, and then maybe the username is right below. So I'm going to just duplicate this downwards, holding down Alt or Option and dragging down. You can also include Shift to constrain it to the same axis. And I'm going to just type out username, all placeholder for now. What happened there? I'm going to make this, because this is secondary information typically, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller and drop the weight to about medium, and we'll pop it right about there. Again, we can make changes as we go if necessary, but that looks okay. All right, now we may also want some maybe follower information, how many people you're following, maybe how many followers you have, that sort of thing. We'll get back to that, but I want to focus on some of the links that we might have. We might want to link to our profile, collections, bookmarks, likes, settings, and so forth. Now on the previous artboards, we had some guides going on. Now, when we created our new artboard, we did not add those new guides in. So what we can do is we actually can select one of the previous artboards that contains those guides, go up to the view menu, go down to guides, and then copy those guides. And we can very easily paste the guides just like that. So now we have our guides that we can work with, so we can align everything super nicely. All right, now to make our life easier, I might want to just duplicate this down. This will be profile, for example. And I'm gonna left justify it, just like that. Now we could go ahead and, make this just text-based, but maybe I want some icons in here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to hop into our plugins panel, and you probably saw this several times already. The Icons for Design plugin, great plugin, and I'll just type out, let's say, user. And we've got some great icons that we could possibly be using. This one looks here, looks pretty good. I'm going to move it down here, pop it right about there. I'm going to change the color to white, and then I'll position my text, I don't know, somewhere maybe 16 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. Maybe a little bit further, maybe 24 pixels. And again, we can preview. That looks okay. Not too bad, right? And Cornell's saying, didn't know we can copy guides. We learn something new every day. Indeed. All right, so we've got one looking pretty good. Now we may want a few of them going down the artboard. We may want, let's say 5, for example. So to quickly make this happen, we can go ahead and convert this into a repeat grid. Boop, there we go. I'm going to drag this down so we have about 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to space them out quite nicely so those links are very easy to get to, just like that. Now, of course, I can dive into this repeat grid, make styling changes if I wanted to, drop this to medium, or even drop it to regular, whatever looks pretty good. That looks okay. We can always make changes later, right? Now, you're going to run into a few problems here. One, because the repeat grid is meant to keep everything in sync. If we were to simply drag in a new icon here, it's essentially going to do that everywhere. right? So in this case, you may want to either use components or you may want to ungroup the grid. It's up to you, right? I'm going to ungroup the grid just to make life a little bit easier. And now what I can do is I can go ahead and make some changes. So this might be collections. This might be bookmarks. Whoops. Bookmarks, just like that. We might want likes. Helps if I double click on it properly. And we may also want settings. Perfect. All right, now we can go through and make changes to those icons. So this one is going to be, let's say, collections. That looks pretty good right there. I'm gonna grab this icon, pop it here, change the color to white, and just get rid of the one in the background, just like that. You can take a look at your layers panel to make sure everything looks pretty good, and it does. So let's hop back into plugins and bookmark. And there's so many bookmark icons. Which one should I use? I'll use this one, make it a little bit larger so it matches. Change the color to white. There we go. And likes, we might want, let's say, a thumb, for example. A thumbs up, it's pretty universal. We can also use a heart. You can create that in XD if you needed to. Now I don't believe I selected that one properly. So let's dive in here. That's a bit better. Pop that about there. Change the color to white. A lot of this is pretty repetitive, but it goes by pretty quickly. And then settings. Perfect. All right, pop that there. Change the color to white. You get the idea, right? Fantastic. Now, even though these are no longer, Evan's asking what plugin is that for the icons. This is called Icons for Design. It's a great plugin. Gives you access to open source icons, which is super cool. So even though this is no longer inside of Repeat Grid, what you can still do is you can still adjust the spacing, right? So you can select all these groups and responsive resize will do its thing. You can adjust it just like that. And you can also make sure they're spaced out properly by using this little guy right up here, which is, if I hover over it, distribute vertically. And they are spaced out really nicely, so everything looks pretty good, right? Fantastic. Okay, now right down here, like I mentioned earlier, we may want some additional information about how many people you're following, how many followers you have, and that sort of thing. So again, I'm gonna grab some text just to make my life easier. Let's go for 284. And we'll do, that's how many people you're following, for example. Maybe this one will be nice and large, and I will increase the weight a little bit, right? Just like that. And I can zoom out to make sure things are looking okay. And I can duplicate this over. And let's say 23.4 thousand followers. Perfect. All right. Now I'm going to make sure, just to keep everything nice and organized, I will go ahead and group these, Command and Control G. This will be called following. And this will be called followers. There we go. And I'll just make sure these are centered. Perfect. All right. Now I'm also going to go through and profile. Just make sure all of these are nicely organized. Settings, likes, bookmarks, and I'm just using the tab key on my keyboard to go to the next layer in the stack. Perfect. All right. I'm going to move these down just a little bit. Again, you do have the home indicator at the bottom of your display, and you also have a notch at the top. So be careful of that. Be mindful and make sure that nothing is all the way down there that your users will have to click on. Now I could go ahead and move some of these up a little bit because we do have some room. I'm big into breathing room, so if you have the space, you might as well use it. I'm going to go ahead and group these. Just call this links. Links. There we go. And make sure everything's nicely breathable. Fancy. All right. Perfect. All right, so we've got our menu looking pretty good, right? So the big question is, how do we actually use this menu? So here's what we're going to do. On one of these artboards that currently exists, we need to create the element that is going to trigger this menu. Now, of course, you could grab an icon, look up menu, and you'll probably find one. But to make our lives, a little bit more creative, we'll just make our own. So right over here, just to get a sense of scale, I'm going to grab my line tool, draw one out just like this. We're going to create the lovely hamburger menu. I'm going to make this a little bit thicker, and I'm going to round out the caps, which is this icon over here to the right, just like that. And I could go ahead and either just duplicate this downwards like this and like this twice, or you can use a repeat grid, whichever you prefer. But this looks okay. Check out the preview. Obviously it's not going to stay there, but that's looking pretty good. I want to make sure things are distributed. There we go. That looks pretty good. And I can move this over to the side. We do have our guides. Make sure that everything snaps, and maybe just to get a bit fancy, I can maybe move this one inwards a little bit, and maybe this one as well. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, not bad. Not great, but it's okay. Now, in terms of the color, let's go ahead and see how things are looking. I can go ahead and right click on the highlight color we've been using and apply it as a border, because we are using a border based shape. And that looks okay. I don't know exactly how I feel about this because the logo is pink, right? The menu, I don't know if it should be pink. So in that case, you can either go for, let's say, a lighter pink, or you can go for some sort of a grayish black. I think a grayish black will probably work better. It's not clashing with the logo. It's not too distracting. You don't want the menu to scream at people, right? Because then people will start clicking on it and they have no need to go into that menu. It's there if they need it, but it shouldn't be the focus of an application. At least, I hope not. So that looks pretty good. All right, we're gonna leave it at that. And I'm going to make sure everything is grouped. Command and Control G, I'm gonna call this menu. And if you are gonna be using this and you might want to update it across all of your artboards, definitely turn this into a component. So you can press the plus button over here to the right beside components. You can also do that inside of your assets panel. So I'm gonna go ahead and press the plus button. We've got our menu now. So once we start using this across all of our other artboards, if we want to change the color or we want to change the styling so it's not as fancy, or you want to turn it into an actual hamburger, whatever it might be, you can do that. Felipe is asking, will we get an XD Masterclass this week? Yes, we will. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be fun. All right, so we've got our menu looking pretty good. Now, your instinct might be to grab this menu and pop it on this other screen. And we're going to get to that. But to start, let's wire it up first. So I'm going to hop into prototype mode, which is right here at the top of the interface. And we've got this blue handle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this handle over to the new artboard that we created, the menu. Now, we don't want to transition completely to that artboard. We actually want the artboard to overlay on top of it. So we do want a tap trigger because that's what we want our users to do. But instead of a simple transition, we want to go for overlay. And you're going to notice when I select that, we have this green area that's on top of this artboard. This will allow us to position and preview what this overlay is going to look like. Now, because it's the same size as the other artboard, it's not going to allow us to move it. But if you're working with a much smaller overlay that is smaller than this artboard, you'll be able to move it exactly where you want it. But what you will be able to do is you'll be able to choose the animation. So do you want the overlay to just appear, which is none, or dissolve? Or do you want it to slide? Maybe slide up could be kind of fun. You don't often see that. We're going to experiment, see what it looks like. And we'll do ease in and out, and maybe duration 0.4 seconds. We don't want it too long. If you go for like a second, it's going to be way too long. So 0.4 seconds might work. We can always change that later. So let's see what this looks like. I'm going to press the play button at the top to preview, and we're going to click on the hamburger menu, and the menu slides up. Now what's nice is you can just click, but it's not oh, something's going on with the XD. You can also create an X to go back, right? Usually, I'm not sure what's going on here, but usually you can open that up and then click. I think I broke something, but you can usually just click on it and then the menu will go back. However, what we can do, we can hop into the menu here, just like this, and let's create a very small X. Where should we put the X? Maybe at the bottom. Oh, here's what we can do. Let's go ahead and grab an ellipse. We're gonna have to make a little bit of room down here, but I'm gonna turn off the border and do that, right? Maybe drop this a little bit. And we're going to create a line. We're going to increase the size, round out the corners. Let's rotate it by, what, 45 degrees possibly? And then we can duplicate it. Whoops, I missed it. We can duplicate it and then flip it around, and we have a lovely little X we can use to close this menu, just like that, right? Now, of course, we want this. I'm going to make sure to group all these. This will be called close. We want this to move it a little bit up so people can get to it and it's not obstructing the home indicator at the bottom. And we're also going to adjust some of this information a little bit. I'm going to move this up a little bit, right? Move this up, move the links up, and there we go. So now from here, we can select this. We can simply click on it just like that. And we're going to choose previous artboard over to the right. So no matter which artboard it comes from, it'll always go back. Now, here's a fun little trick. This is the reason we did not hook or duplicate the menu previously. What you're able to do from prototype mode, you're able to grab the menu, just like this, copy it, and then go to any other artboard that you want that menu to be present on, and we're going to paste it. And you're going to notice what it's going to do, it's going to maintain all those properties, the prototyping properties, and it's going to link to that exact same menu. And that's one of the benefits of using overlays, is that you can link to one artboard from many artboards, which is great. You can also do something very similar with components as well, and I might speed through that at the end, but here's how that works. So depending on which artboard you're on, let's say you go here, you go to the search, and we added that little sound effect. We can open up our menu, right? And we can close it just like that, right? So again, we can do it from this, slides up, we can close it, go to search, menu, and it all goes to the exact same menu, which is super cool. Fancy. All right, now very quickly, because we do have a few minutes, let's take a look at how, in addition to using an overlay, you can also do this as a component. So you remember earlier, I did create this menu as a component. What you can do is you can actually have an additional state within this component that acts as the menu if you don't want a separate artboard for it. So what I'm going to do, just to make my life a little bit easier, I'm going to make a background on this, which is going to be our pink. I'm going to move it to the back, right? And I'm going to select all this information just like this. I'm going to copy it. And then what I'm going to do is in the master component of this menu, which is the component with the solid diamond, I'm going to create a new state, just like this. I'm going to call this menu, or I can call this expanded, whatever you want. And now once that's done, inside of that component, I can simply go ahead and paste, right? Now, of course, we're going to have to move this to the top, but we'll get to that in a second. But all of that information is there, right? So I can grab the header, move this up to the top. Beautiful. So now we have our two states. We have our menu, we have our default state, and we have our expanded state. And here's where you can get a little bit fancy by using components. Watch this. What we can do is in our expanded state, we're going to make sure all this information, we're actually going to make sure the menu is at the top. And we can go ahead and do something like this, right? We can, let's say, grab this. We'll make this a little bit longer so it matches that one. We're going to collapse. We're going to grab this, move this inwards, move this one. We're going to match these a little bit like that. We're going to rotate this one, let's say 45 degrees. And we're going to grab the one at the end. We're going to rotate this one negative 45 degrees. Maybe 45 is not the number I wanted. Collapse this a little bit, right? Essentially, you want to make an X. This isn't looking like an X, but we are going to kind of run with this. This looks absolutely terrible. There we go. That's a little bit better. It's not perfect, but it's almost there, right? Okay, you get the idea, right? It's an ugly X, but it's going to work for now. So now, if we go to our default state of our menu, we can go into prototype mode. And instead of wiring it up to that overlay, of course you can still do that, but what we're going to do instead is we're going to choose our expanded state. So we don't want an overlay, we want auto animate. We're going to choose our expanded state, and now when we press on it, it does that fancy little animation. And of course, I didn't do it properly. I didn't rotate things properly, so it looks a little bit strange, but let's do that one more time. Let's zoom in here, right? It's okay. It's fancy. Yeah, as Cornell says, it's a drunk X, but it could work, right? So you can either use overlays or you can use components to get a little bit fancy and add in some animation. So that's just going to about wrap it up for today. Stick around in just a few minutes. Alice Lee is coming up with some doodle therapy, always a good time. And who else do we have after Alice? We have Ian getting started in Premiere Pro. So stick around for that. I'm going to be back tomorrow with day number 6 of the XD challenge, I believe it is. I can't keep track of days anymore, but that's about it. Big thank you to Christina and Akin and Cornell and Felipe and Munir and everyone else joining me. I will see you all next time.